I'm not going to say that Justin Trudeau cheated on Sophie Gregoire Trudeau while they were married, but there are rumors circulating that Mélanie Joly was Justin Trudeau's doll. I mean, there's a lot of photos to back up that evidence, and if one were to make that claim, I think a lot of people actually do agree with that. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today we're taking a look at Justin Trudeau's mistress, who gets extremely heated in the House of Commons. But there's actually a little bit of an Easter egg in this video. Marco Mendicino is somewhere hiding in the House. And so I want to play a little bit of a Where's Waldo. If you see him, let me know down below in the comments at what point in the video you see him. And before we get into it, I do have a message from today's sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Private Internet Access. We've teamed up together and are willing to offer my audience 83% off using the code House of Canada, which can be found linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. There's no easy way of putting this. Justin Trudeau is trying to censor the internet and he's trying to implement a digital ID. And the only way that you can actually really protect yourself online is through a VPN. And my go-to VPN is Private Internet Access. Now, those who don't know what a VPN is, it acts as a way to encrypt your data, which means that all the big tech companies, including the government, can't access your information. Your information bounces around from IP address to IP address, and it doesn't just act as a way to protect yourself, but it's also a way to access content which you wouldn't regularly be able to get because of geolocation restrictions, such as Netflix or Disney. I know a lot of people in Canada want to access the American stuff, and the only real way to do that is with a VPN. And it is so user-friendly with Private Internet Access. You can have it on your phone, your tablet, all of your devices, your computers, etc. Just be sure to use House of Canada as your code, which should be linked down in the description or the pinned comment below to get yourself 83% off with Private Internet Access. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video.
A rigorous regime. Israeli arms are being tested in Canada, in Alberta. Canadians do not want to be complicit in Netanyahu's crimes against Palestinian children. Canada should not be buying from these companies and should not be selling to the Israeli government. The minister promised this House to issue a notice to exporters on March 18th.
This is going to be controversial.
Where is the notice to exporters, and when will Canada finally impose a two-way arms embargo?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our position when it comes to arms export,
G.I. Jolie,
absolutely clear. Now, when it comes to what is happening in the Middle East, we've been clear. The violence must stop. We need a ceasefire now. Hostages must be released, and we need to make sure that humanitarian aid gets into Gaza. And at the end of the day, what we need is a two-state solution where the state of Israel can live side by side in peace and security with a Palestinian state. I've been in contact with my U.S., U.K., and many Arab countries counterpart over the weekend, working hard on bringing back peace to the Middle East. Thank you.
Yes, and Canada's going to lead the charge.
The Honourable Member from Richmond Hill.
Kidding me.
Mr. Speaker, our government has shown great success in attracting historical investment in our auto industry. Can the Minister highlight the recent investment from Honda and what it means for building our EV supply chain and growing Canadian jobs?
Good question.
The Honourable for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Hey, the Chihuahua is back.
Good question.
Yeah,
Mr. Speaker, last week we witnessed a $15.7 billion investment by Honda, Mr. Speaker. This is the largest investment in Honda's history. It is the largest investment in our auto sector, Mr. Speaker, and it's one of the largest investment by a private company in this country, Mr. Speaker. This is great news for our workers across the nation. This is great news for our auto sector, Mr. Speaker. This is great news for Canada, Mr. Speaker. Let's celebrate as Canada becomes a hub for green manufacturing in the 21st century.
NDP Liberals are spending $52 billion of taxpayer money to subsidize international auto companies. Then the Building and Trades Union recently condemned the use of foreign replacement workers at the Stellantis plants. jobs like forklift driver. Yet contrary to the Liberal claims, foreign replacement workers keep being brought in for jobs that don't require specialty knowledge. The union calls that a slap in the face, and we agree. Yep. After 9 years, the Prime Minister is not worth the cost. So how much will Canadian taxpayers pay to employ foreign replacement workers?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, instead of spreading disinformation, Mr. Speaker, this member should be standing with all Canadians in this House and making sure that we maximize jobs for Canadians. That's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. The investment that he's talking about is going to create more than 2,500 direct jobs at this plant, Mr. Speaker. That's going to be one of the largest battery assembly plant in North America, Mr. Speaker. We should all be proud that Canada now ranks first in the world for the battery ecosystem we've built, Mr. Speaker. This is according to Bloomberg. We're going to keep investing in Canadians. We're going to keep investing in jobs, and we're going to keep investing in the auto industry.
Yeah, that's our green initiative. No carbon emissions by 2030 or 2035.
Disinformation because in committee he admitted he hadn't read the contracts. Wow. But I've read both, Stellantis and VW. And do you know what's not in them? Any requirement that jobs at these plants be Canadians only. Canadians don't believe this, Prime Minister, and since I've read the contracts, I don't either. The NDP Liberals are hiding the truth. If this Prime Minister has contractual job guarantees, he will have no problem proving me wrong.
That's right.
Will the Liberals release the contracts, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, it's amazing that the member would be against creating jobs in this country, Mr. Speaker, and maximizing jobs. If you read the contract, I guess you should have a lawyer to understand the terms, Mr. Speaker, because it's very simple. The terms are maximizing Canadian jobs, but it gives me an opportunity, Mr. Speaker. We should rejoice. Just last week, we announced and we supported the largest investment in the auto sector in Canada's history. Honda is going to be investing $15.7 billion, Mr. Speaker, in this country. Mr. Speaker, we're attracting record investment. We're going to create jobs, and we're going to fight for every Canadian.
For immigrant workers. The Honda plant is also, that's where immigrant workers can work.
For Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, this government's policies have been focused on promoting diversity, respect, and equality amongst all Canadians. On that side of the House, however, we learned last week that the Leader of the Opposition visited an encampment set up by individuals linked to extreme far-right groups like Diagolon. Wow. CSIS says Diagolon
there he goes.
and inspires serious violence, yet the Conservative leader is refusing to denounce them or apologize for engaging with them. Can the government please reiterate how we will keep Canadians safe from extreme groups and what our responsibilities are as political leaders?
I don't know what's going first. This guy's career or his hairline?
The Honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, while we can appreciate different views and political opinions,
or his,
what we cannot and should not tolerate is any member of this House indulging in and actively courting extremist far-right groups that espouse anti-Semitic, anti-2S LGBTQI+, and white nationalist ideologies. The Conservative leader...
Anti-Semitic? Do you mean like all the pro-Hamas protests?
Refusal to denounce Diagolon in this very...
Why are they hyper-focusing on... Isn't Diagolon a joke? The leader is a goat or something?
Difficulty trying to hear the answer from the Honourable Minister. I'm going to ask members to please let the Minister finish his statement.
This is crazy.
20 seconds left on the clock.
Time-traveling goat.
The Conservative leaders,
someone in the chat says,
refusal to denounce Diagolon is incredibly alarming. That he will do anything to win speaks volumes to his values, and Mr. Speaker, quite frankly, is sending chills across this country. On this side, we will always defend Canadians and Canadian values.
Jesus. All right.
The Honourable Member from Kenora.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, young Canadians know that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. 8 in 10 people now
denounce memes, people are saying in the chat.
Only for the rich, as they've completely given up on their dream of ever owning a home. So simply, Mr. Speaker, Will this government finally listen to Canadians and to our common sense plan to cap spending that brings down inflation and interest rates so that young people can finally afford a home?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I'll agree insofar as the Conservatives believe that it's essential that we do more to make sure that young people can get into the housing market. But the difference between our side and theirs is they do not have a plan to achieve that reality. Mr. Speaker, the measures that they are putting forward include measures that would raise taxes on home buildings, make it more difficult to build homes in communities, and actually cut funding for homes, for programs that are supporting home building today. We have new measures that create tax-free opportunities for young people to save up for a down payment, new measures that help young people establish a credit score, and new measures that reduce their monthly mortgage costs. We will do what it takes to solve the housing crisis. I wish they'd join us.
The Honourable Member from Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, car theft in Canada is completely out of control. 2 in 5 Canadians have either had their car stolen or know someone who has. Last week in Victoria, a repeat offender was arrested 3 times in 3 days for stealing cars. The police in Victoria had to put out a statement, and they laid the blame for this on the Liberals' failed Bill C-75. Will this Justice Minister listen to the police and reverse their soft-on-crime Bill C-75?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I've got a lot of respect for that member. He's my critic. He served on the Justice Committee with me for a number of years. What I don't have respect for is the instructions he gets from his leader on how to vote. When we have legislation in the chamber that deals with, in the fall economic statement, tackling the money laundering and the organized crime links to auto theft, he's instructed to vote against. Before even reading the document that is the budget 2024 and what it contains with respect to addressing auto theft, increasing maximum penalties, dealing with the link between using youth and organized criminality, and tackling more money laundering, he was told to vote against yet again by his leader.
The Honourable Member from Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, the Justice Minister's own vehicle was stolen 3 times in the last 3 years. Not fixing the problem. Conservatives
no doubt.
Private member's bill in the House right now that establishes serious jail time for repeat car thefts. Mr. Speaker, this individual in Victoria was arrested 3 times in 3 days. He pushed a woman out of her car to steal her vehicle. He drove off and caused a collision. It's time in Canada that we crack down on repeat violent auto theft. Conservatives will do it.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, that member knows that repeat violent offenders are already dealt with by our bail regime. He voted in favour of that. You should also know that when C-75, the very bill
I'm going to ask members, please, to allow the Minister to listen to his question. I'll ask you to settle down. The Honourable Minister from the top.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That member knows and should know that on the bail reform bill that he actually voted in favor of, it tackles serious violent repeat offenders, which would include those who use serious violence in committing an auto theft. What he should also realize is that the very bill he impugns, Bill C-75, when that was before this chamber in the 42nd Parliament, we promoted an augmentation, an increasing in the penalty that is available for auto theft. He and all of his colleagues voted against. What I would prefer is some collaboration and a bit less hypocrisy.